Hello, my name is Eric Green. I'm interviewing my great grandmother, and for those that don't know what a great grandmother is, that's my mother's mother's mother. So she's
Where
93 years old. She's 93 years old, and I'm going to ask her a few questions for this history project. So the first question I'm going to ask her is, how was your life growing up in the early 1900s, and how did you make it through your early childhood, and what do you lastly remember? Okay.
Most of I remember when I was going to school. We went to school in the country. We went to a we had a little country school. Just a one room. We just had a one room. That's where I went to school, in a one room schoolhouse. And and no, no, we just had fun. We just my childhood was it was fun. It was in the country. We didn't have stuff that y'all have now. We didn't know about what we didn't have no radios and nothing like that. No TV, no radio. Only thing we did for fun at night, the kids, when we would all get together, we would always sit out and like we would say, we would ask one another, we would ask one another words, like, oh my God, like we would name a word and like we said, well, what B start with? What do B start with? What A start with? Stuff like that, and then we be eating. We have a big old sack of peanuts. we we have peanuts. Y'all don't know about no hickory-nuts. Hickory-nuts, we had to go out in the woods and get great big sacks of hickory-nuts, and then we would have a hammer, and we would crack the hickory-nuts, and then we had a pen where we would pick out the goody, whatever you call it, out of it. And that's what we did. That's what we did. That's what I did at home when we was at home. And then we would read books, and we had a fireplace, and we'd sit up and bake potatoes in the fireplace. We put our sweet potatoes in the fireplace and bake our potatoes in the fireplace. And sometimes if we didn't bake them, we would do. Then we would peel sweet potatoes, and we had a big old iron stove, a big old iron heater. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about, but a big iron heater, and it burned with wood, and we would peel the sweet potatoes and slice them up and lay on top of the stove and cook them till they brown. And we would have fun doing that. And we're eating that, and then in the morning time, we couldn't lay in the bed till the sunrise. Our daddy didn't. We couldn't stay in the bed. He didn't allow us to stay in the bed till the sunrise. He said, "You lazy person, stay in the bed till the sunrise. You lazy." And before I would go to school, after I got up big enough, before I go to school, I had 2 cows to milk. Before I went to school, I had to get up and you wouldn't need to leave at home or leaving you had to make up your bed. You didn't leave home or leave that bed. We had to get up and clean up the house. And then I had to go milk the cows. I had 2 cows to milk. And my brothers never slopped the hogs. And I had to milk 2 cows. And when I milked the cows, then when I bring them in, well, Mama would always strain the milk. But I had 2 cows to milk before I go to school in the morning time. And we had about 2 miles to walk to school. We had to walk to school about from here. I don't know what number she about. How far did we have to walk? It was further from here to Food Town. But anyway, we had a long ways to walk to school. We had to leave early, And we always we had little buckets, with our dinner. We would have we would have our biscuits and syrup, either. We didn't have home food. We didn't have sandwiches like y'all feed, like ham sandwiches and stuff like that. We would have our biscuits and bacon and, in our bucket like that. Sometimes we would have a sandwich on Fridays. On Friday when we go to school, sometimes we would have ham sandwiches like that because, we killed hog, we kept meat. And then my daddy used to kill. We had cow. We had hogs and cow. We didn't know what it was to buy meat. So my daddy killed. We had beef. We killed our own beef. And on hog and the pork. The hog we have hogs. And then I used to chop cotton and pick cotton. And dig sweet potatoes. All of that. I did all that. And then peanut. We had to put up. We raised everything we ate just about it. And we raised peanuts. And we had to go pull up the peanuts. And we pulled the peanuts and we had to shake the dirt out of them. And you would throw them on the wagon. And then after we get all the crop of the peanuts pulled up, then we had to bring them and throw them on top of the house, so they can dry. And so the peanuts could dry. And then we had to pick the peanuts off the vine and put them in a sack. Sometimes we have a sack that big with peanuts in it. And come time to gather corn, after the corn dried, we got dried in. Then we would have a wagon, and we had to go pull corn off. We had to pull the corn off the stalk and put it in the wagon.
How was your life, in school? Did you go to school with black kids? Or did you go to school?
We didn't know about no. We didn't go to school with no white kids. We went to school with black kids. We no such a thing, no white kids. No, the white kids had schools, but we didn't go nowhere near their school, and they didn't come nowhere near us. We used to pass by their school. Now they had buses to carry them to school, but we had to walk. The whites always had buses, Either their parents would take them to school. The only way we would get to school, sometimes it'd be raining, my daddy would carry us in the wagon. He kept the mule and put us in the wagon and carry us to school.
Wow.
That's the only way. We didn't know about driving in no cars or nothing, no buses. There were no buses going to school. And we used to play baseball at school. We used to have baseball, play baseball. The girls and boys both played baseball at school on the ground. And basketball too, they had basketball, but I never did play that though. I didn't play it. And, oh my gosh, I don't know. And,
So did you ever experience any segregation growing up in your early, adult, small?
no, not no segregation, no, we didn't have nothing like that. We couldn't even vote. We couldn't even go vote. My parents never couldn't vote. Well, y'all ought to know that.
Have you ever voted?
Been too long, huh?
Have you ever voted before?
No, I never voted until I got grown and got married. The only time I voted was after I got married.
How old was that?
Well, let me see. I was about 30 or 40 before I even voted.
So tell me about your grandfather and your great-grandfather, your great-grandmother. Did
Okay,
they...
well, I want to start on my mama's side. My mother's daddy was a half white man. Because my mama's daddy, his daddy was a white man. He was a slave. He bought slaves and sold slaves. I remember he used to sit down and tell us about how his daddy used to sell slaves. And his mama was a black woman. He said, only time he saw his mama, whenever his mama would be working in the field, she was a big black woman. And he said his daddy would have him on a horse. You know how these white folks have the kids on the horse, well, that's what he did my grandfather. And he would ride with his daddy. His daddy always did treat him nice. His mama was black, but his mama didn't have nothing to do with him. And he said his daddy's wife was nice to him. She was white, but she was nice. He said he just like, when he was there, he was just like a white boy. He got everything he wanted. And he said his daddy used to, how to go around on the field looking at the slaves, see if they working. And he said he'd be riding with his daddy. Daddy had him sitting up in front of him. He said that's the only time he would see his mama out there in the field working. He wasn't allowed to go to his mother. And said one day his daddy told him, I'm selling your mama. He said he never will forget that. And he said like you put the chains around there. Last time he seen his mama, he said he was a whole lot of niggas. He said it was a lot of them. And said his mama was a big old black woman. Said, like they put the chains, a rope or something around their knee, and said they had him up on this big old long flat phone, so the big old long flat phone. And said, and they was bidding on him. Mama said they put it. My grandfather said they put his mom on a platform, and said he was, they was bidding, who the best niggas, the best ones, and they get up and feel them, so they would feel the muscles of their arm and leg, and he said, and that's where he sold them. That's where his daddy sold the niggas, and he said that was the last time he saw his mama. So he never did see her no more. And he said from then on, when he was a little boy, so he said when he got grown, he was gonna find him the blackest mama he could find. And he was mama was black as tar. We ain't lying. He said when he got grown, he got up, so his daddy asked him, did you want to stay with my race or go with your mama's race? And he told, I want to go with my mama's race. So he asked it right there. And so his daddy gave, I think he said he gave him $25 or $30. He said that was a lot of money back then. And he said,
tell me about my great-grandfather and how you fell in love and how you got kids and, so.
Who?
Well.
What grandfather?
Your husband.
Your husband, yeah.
Oh, my husband?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, it is your great-grandfather. Well, when I met him, let me see, now how I met him, my daddy's father, my daddy and his sister had a stepmother. Cause his mother was, she was the one that kind of like to get in the streets and go. That's the one that, she's half, my daddy's mama was a half Indian. Her mother was a full-out Indian. My daddy's mama was. But anyway, after she had him, after she had him, I'll tell you about your grandfather. After she had him, then my grandfather married again, and so my grandfather raised my dad and his sister. And oh yeah, and the way I met your grandfather, that's how I met your grandfather. And then after she got sick, I was the only one single. Everybody else was married. My other sisters and brothers that got married, and so I had to go stay with him to help her, cause he didn't have nobody to help her, cause she was sick. And then after she died, then I stayed on with my grandfather. And after I stayed with my grandfather used to work for a white man that had a chicken farm, and he used to raise chickens for this white man. And then while I was staying there, I started working for them, and that's how I met your daddy, my husband. He was working at the store. He was pumping gas at the store, and I was working in the house. I was a cook in the house. I would cook for the white folks, and he would pump gas, and then work in the store. Sell stuff in the store, help them sell stuff. So that's how I met your grandfather, your great grandfather. And then we got married, and after we got married, well, I already had Marzel. I had Marzel before I got married. And so then anyway, I had Marzel and Betty. I had Marzel, Betty, and June. They was all raised in Arkansas. And then my husband left and went to St. Louis and got a job. And then he sent for me and the kids. And then the rest of them, that's where the rest of them was born. Ever except Ann and Reggie was born in Missouri, right across the river from East St. Louis. But Bobby and Buford was born in East St. Louis. Yeah, I didn't have but 2 kids born in the hospital, and that was Ann and Reggie. The rest of them was born at home. I had a midwives. There wasn't no doctor, midwives come in. But I didn't have but 2 was born in the hospital, and that was Ann and Reggie. And when Ann was born, I lost my eyesight. I couldn't see. After she was born, I couldn't see. I said, what? I said, I can't see y'all. They said, I can't see it. And then when they rolled me, I couldn't see when they rolled me in my room. And there was a lot of women was in the room. Cause you know, be 2, 3 women in the same room at that time, and I said, "Oh, I said, okay, I ain't gonna get changed to see my hair, but the women that said I was damning them off, they said, hell, if I had them many, hell, I would want to see. They said, if I had them many kids, hell, I would want to see. I'd be glad that's what they were saying. I was just crying. I just cried because I couldn't see. I said, I ain't gonna get changed to see my kids. I said, I can't see my baby. And so they kept working with me. Said, then the lady, the doctor, the nurse kept coming in. She said, can you see now? I can see her down her head like that. I said, I can see her a little bit. And she kept on working with me until I got so I could see. And I was so happy because I thought, hey, I went blind for a while I went in. And then I would call everybody there. They said, well, who there? You got one there, June, one there. They was calling some names I didn't even know. They said, yeah, you up there? I called all them kids. Hell, I would even. He said, if I was you, I would want to see. You had too many kids. And but anyway, then after she was born, and Reggie was no, when Reggie was born, I went to Reggie. I thought I went to heaven. I didn't know. I kept on thinking that until my husband aunt told me. She said, you know what? You didn't go to heaven, so they gave you that something they give you, you know. But I was in a pastor. And it was never just white. Just look, I just see angels just all around me. It was in a green pasture. That's after Reggie was born. I didn't go blind, but I could see it. And they said, and she said, you didn't see it. I told everybody I had died, and I thought I had died and went to heaven for real. And I still believe it. I don't care what they say. Because it was too pretty. I had never seen a place like that. Looked like they were just angels, and they were just all around me, and they had wings. Wow. We were dressed in white and had wings, and it was a green pasture. And I used to, when I come home, I told everybody that. Until and she said, I said, give me one. And they did. She said, didn't they put something over your nose like that before you went to sleep? I said, yeah. She said, that's the anesthetic, whatever they call it. So she said, that's what they were. They had you thinking that. So you didn't go to heaven. Mm-hmm. And Reggie, when Bill was born, Bill was so big that his head was so big that they had to pull him out. They had to catch his head. I was at home. It was a doctor. The doctor came to the house. It wasn't me, but it was a doctor. And his head was so big until they had to, I didn't know whether the child going to live or not. They had to try and get his head out. They had to catch his head and pull it out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went through a lot of that. I worked a lot. So I used to work for white people. I used to iron their clothes, wash their clothes, clean their house. I did all of that. I didn't have my hands in no good because I did too much work. Picking cotton, chopping cotton.
How much were you paid for doing that? How much were you paid for doing that?
Oh, when I chop cotton, 50 cents a day. 50 cents a day now for chopping cotton. I ain't kidding, hard as it was. And then it left from there, went up to 75. I think before I left the farm, I think they did go up to $1. And for picking cotton, they would pay you, was it 50 cents a pound or 30? $1, 50 cents a pound of cotton. I think it was 50 cents a pound. But shoot, I used to pick 300 and 400 pounds of cotton though. I could pick 300 pounds of cotton easy during the day if I get out there in the morning time. And my brother, he used to pick 4 and 5 pounds, 500. Mm-hmm. We made it good. We had money. You know, that time could you get a loaf of bread for a nickel. But at that time, you know, food was you buy candy for a nickel, get a soda pop for a nickel. And it's like it is now. Coffee, you can get a pound of coffee for 25 cents. Mm-hmm.
Do you think kids now should be thankful for?
They should be thankful. They ought to be. Y'all, honey, y'all don't know y'all got it made, honey. Y'all don't even know what work is. Y'all don't even know what work is. Y'all wouldn't dare do the work. I was bothering you. Said, well, I would have ran away from home. I said, well, what was you going to run? Well, where you going to run to? Because everybody else was raised like that. Everybody else was like that. But you know, my daddy always, now we weren't no sharecroppers. Because my dad always rented his rented his land, and we could go to the field whenever we got ready. You know, he was like the sharecroppers there. 'Cause my daddy had sharecroppers too. You know, we worked for that house. Sharecroppers, they had to be there. They had to be in the field at a certain time. They had to be there, but we didn't have to be there at a certain time. And then they had to work clear up to 12 o'clock before they go home for lunch. But we could leave. We didn't have to do that. And that's the only good thing about us. We didn't have to stay in the field that long. But we had to be in the field when the sun rise though. When the sun rise, we was in the field. We didn't wait till sometimes it'd be so dark when we would go, we'd get that photo sun rise. Yeah. No, we didn't lay in no bed till it got daylight, honey. And Dad said, no, didn't nobody stay in no bed till the sunrise. Nobody stayed in the house till the sunrise. We had to be up. The house cleaned up and everything.
How was life, you know, in your adult days when you raised, you know, your 7 kids? How was that, you know, being a mother out?
Yeah, yeah, I raised those kids myself. Well, I did everything, because Buford didn't know what it was to get up and make fires in the morning time. Ma said, so she get to thinking about how rusty my hair, you know, he said, my hair would be so rusty. I used to get up and make, they didn't know what it was, my kids didn't know what, my boys didn't know what it was to get up. I did all that. I get up and make fires. I had the room, everything be ready when they get up. Their clothes would be out and everything. And I got up and made the fires in the morning time, so they have a warm house when they got up. And then oh yeah, my husband left me when I was pregnant with Ann. I was pregnant with Ann when he left. Ann was, yeah. He didn't see Ann was 5 months old before he saw her. And then from then on, from then on everything I was, you know, I had to be the head of everything. I had to do everything. Then I had to go get on welfare. I had to go, you know, get on welfare, raise the kids up on the welfare. And they never did go hungry. I see to that because I always kept a grocery bill. I didn't have money because, you know, the little money I was getting, I had to have a grocery bill. And then when I get my check, I would go pay the grocery bill off. And then I always pay my bills up, though. That's one thing. I paid my bills. Even the furniture stuff, when I go get furniture, I always pay my bill where I can always go get stuff. Whenever I want to get something, I can get it. And then, oh yeah, then after they done raised that, after people getting ready to graduate, then yeah, he come back. My husband come back. He didn't come back to stay, but he come back there. And after he found out he couldn't come back there, I said, shit, I don't need you, nigga. I done raised these kids. I don't need you now. And see, he was still running the streets, though. He was still running the streets and going with women. He didn't know I knew that, because his aunt told me that the way he come up there, the woman he was staying with, gave him the fare to come up there to see his kid. He didn't know I knew all that. And she called and told me about it, and about how he was running the streets and drinking. So he gonna come up there and after I told her, I said, well, honey, you ain't got no job, and now where you gonna come back here and mess up things? I said, I'll get some check every month for these kids. You can't come back here and mess, you can't come back here and mess up nothing now. And he didn't know, I already knew what was going on down there. And then, you know, he left and then he even stayed to see people graduate. I was looking for him, and they said, and brother said, honey, that nigga left this morning. I said, you mean he didn't even stay? Now, people were gonna graduate that Thursday, and he left that Wednesday. He didn't even stay to see people graduate. People didn't know that though, but June knew it. June couldn't stand him. And you know, after he was running the streets, he was ripping and running the streets down there. So, and I told the kids, I said, you know what? I said, he drinking and going on. I said, if he died, the first thing he gonna be looking for y'all abuse out juice. You know, I got mad at June when he said it. I said, he gonna be looking for y'all to help pay. If he said help me, Jude said, I ain't gonna pay nothing. So I'll tell him to dig a hole and put him in there above. I got mad when he said that. That hurt me so bad when he said that. He said, well, if he do, I just tell him to dig a hole and put him down in the ground, upside down, with his head down, cover him up. And I said, Jimmy, you don't mean that. He said, well, what is we gonna go bury him for? He ain't did nothing for us. So people didn't feel like that. In fact, people knew about June, the oldest boy, knew more about what he was doing than they did. Because a whole lot of stuff I didn't even tell my kids. Sometimes I used to lie to them and tell them that their daddy sent them some money. He wouldn't be there to sell them nothing. Because I didn't want him to grow up hating him, you know.
Right.
Uh-huh. But at the end, though, he changed and got saved. He got saved and sanctified before he died. He married again, though. But I didn't sign no divorce. And, so yeah, honey, I raised them kids by myself. I did all that myself. Sure did. And I did hair when Buford and then went to college. Then I did hair every day. On the day I didn't do hair, and that was on Thursday. I did hair from Monday to every day through the week. And then on Saturdays, now Monday morning, I run around there to the bank and send them a little money. The little money I'd be that maid, I send it to Annie Buford when they was in college. And he didn't sit down, he didn't help him do nothing. He didn't do nothing for him. Yeah, I raised them kids all by myself. Sure did.
Who is Lily B. Norris?
Huh?
Who is Lily B. Norris? How would you describe yourself?
Huh?
How would you describe yourself, Granny? Like, who are you? Like, how would you describe yourself? Like, who is Lily B. Norris?
A strong woman, strong wicked woman. And a Christian lady at that. Believe in Jesus Christ. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. That's who I depended on, him. I didn't care what I did, he always was the head of my life. And I said, Lord, even when the kid was coming up, I was saying, you know, no, none of them never did get pregnant while they was with me. But when they leave, I wasn't tied on one, and I didn't keep them from going. But when they left that door, I said, Lord, I said, they're in your hand. And you know, I just believed that God would take care of them. Mm-hmm. And that was my prayer. I didn't raise them by myself. If it weren't for God, I couldn't have raised them. So whenever they walk out the door, I ask the Lord to be with them. You know, to be with them, see them safely there and back. And even when they was in their classes and they be hard, I even pray for their subjects. You know, sometimes they be hard on their subject. And I would pray for the Lord to give them the knowledge and the wisdom enough to learn. And yeah, I did all that because I was the mama in the father. As Betty said, you know, Betty used to, she still do it. On Mother's Day, she sends me a Mother's Day, she sends me a Father's Day card. On Father's Day, I get a Father's Day card from Betty. Because she said I was the mother and the father, which I was. Mm-hmm. And every year I said, a lot of them talk about, you can't raise the children by the daddy. That's a lie. It's the way you carry yourself in front of them. And they never know the whole time. They never know the man to come and spend the night with me. They never know that. They never ever see that. Even with Reggie's daddy, and when Reggie started coming, he started coming. 12 o'clock or later, that man would stay there at the house at 9 o'clock, 9:30. It's time for you to go, buddy. Your kid getting ready to go to bed. He had to go. So he said that stuff about you can't raise. You can raise the kids. You ain't got to have no husband to raise a kid, but you got to have God. You have Jesus. As long as you got Christ in your life, you can do anything. Sure the truth.
I just want to begin by thanking my great grandmother for this awesome video, and I hope that you were able to acknowledge the things that she's been through, and also thanks to my cousin Jay for being able to use his equipment, come out here and help me record this video. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Love you.
Love you, Granny.
Love you too.